Sad day on the channel. It's a terrible day, actually, Sunday. And I had an intruder in my sacred Mopar garage. And so bad that I said I was gonna film it. My wife has penetrated the hollowed Mopar walls with this 2024 Kia Carnival. Why is it in here? The oil has to get changed. Couldn't get an appointment in the dealership, so guess who has to take care of it? But it's interesting because a bunch of you people out there in YouTube land is probably driving one of these as a backup or a daily day-to-day, or their wife got one or daughter got one, and you may too have to change the oil. So the only thing I found interesting about this, and I'm gonna come on and off, you don't need to see everything, but what you do need to do is get the kit, which is a cartridge style with what they consider a nipple, and I'll come back on and show you what role that plays in this oil change. And very important, 2 O-ring oil rings, and a washer, what they consider a collapsible washer, which goes on the drain plug. So, tools needed for this oil change: optional ramp, jack stands, floor jack, whatever you got. I got all. I even got a 4-post lift, but as you can see, what's on it needs to come off it. You're gonna need a torque wrench to torque the oil drain nut plug back on, and you're gonna need a 27mm socket for the filter housing, and you're gonna need a 17mm. Don't go nowhere, you stay up there, won't you? You're gonna need a 17mm for the oil drain plug. Again, I'm not gonna bore you guys with that, but I will come back on and show you how to install this cartridge style oil filter, how to install the O-rings, and to replace the collapsible washer. I'm also going to come back on and show you where this is located. Very interesting. Stay tuned. All right, we're up underneath the 2024 Carnival. Trying to capture everything, but a lot of stuff, you guys, if you choose to tackle this thing, you'll see what I'm talking about. Place the car on ramps, jack it up, whatever you need to do, get up underneath it. Don't forget the engine isn't in sideways because it's a front wheel drive vehicle, so the oil drain plug is facing towards the rear of the vehicle. It's the 17, like I told you. Put it on there. I'm going to move the camera because if I loosen that up, oil is going to splash on the camera. So I'll cut back on when it's draining or after I put the plug back in. Alright, so the camera was set on picture for some reason. So the drain plug came out. Oil is still coming out. Pretty much drained all in here. 6.4 quarts of oil, 0.20. This is the collapsible washer that was on the drain plug. Do you see any of that? Let me see. There we go. Take 2. So the oil is still draining out. This is the oil plug with the collapsible washer that was on here. You have to replace that. The collapsible washer goes here. You have to torque that down. I believe it's 15 to 23 pounds of torque. I'm going to double check that. I'm going to go in the pack, get the replacement washer, and install that. Just let that finish dripping out. And once I get the oil drain plug back in and torque down, I'll spray that area with some brake cleaner and get all the excess old oil off the area. And once that's done, we'll move up to the oil filter location, removal and replacement. Be back. Yeah, I came back on. Check the specs. It's 25 to 32 pounds of torque. So tighten that down as per the specs. Get can of brake clean. Of course, I use the AMSOIL. Where you at? I use the AMSOIL brake clean because that's the only brake clean that works. Trace them around there. Wipe it off any extra oil. None got on the exhaust pipe, but the brake clean did, so wipe that down, make sure that's good. And we're gonna relocate the camera to try to capture the oil filter cartridge. I don't know if I can. It's in a tight spot. Be back. All right, now we are in position to change the oil cartridge, the oil filter cartridge. Right front wheel. Need a CV joint right here. That is where the oil cartridge lives, and that is a 27 millimeter socket. I'm gonna put my drain pan back in place, and we're gonna loosen this. Try not to destroy my camera. So let me just pull this back off. It's a cartridge type. The 2 O-rings. I'll let you let that drain for a little bit, and I'll bring it topside, switch it out, so you guys can see what's going on. And when we get back down, I'm gonna try to get the camera in there so you can capture how to engage this little nipple on the oil filter. It goes in a certain way. I hear them say 3 o'clock install it, so we'll be with the 3 is on the clock. Stick it in, you rotate it downwards to the 6 o'clock position, and there's a tab that little nipple locks into, and you push the filter in, and make sure that that's where it needs to be, and you reinstall the cap after you ensure that you change the 2 O-rings that comes on that cap that I just unscrewed. So stand by. All right, I'm topside now. We're gonna show you how to install that O-ring on the oil cartridge. So I don't know, I'll do it the best I can. There's 2 O-rings. There's one here and there's one there. So after I disconnect the cartridge from the housing, use a pick. There you go. Pick them out, replace them, coat them with oil so it'll go back in, but I'm going to use brake cleaner to clean the cap out. You don't have to see that. I'll come back on when it's done. So we got a special treat. My wife was able to find me a tripod that went up high enough, so I'm just going to show you what I did, although I did it already. 2 O-rings. Let me make sure. 2 O-rings were in the cap. Take a pick them out, and it's easy to see where they come back. This is threads. These 2 areas is where the O-rings came out of. Once you do that, push this to the side. This oil filter will pull out. There's a little contraption inside that holds it, and once you do that, get you a rag, keep your hands clean, take the cap. I should have turned that around so I can see what I'm doing. Get you some AMSOIL brake cleaner, because I'm an AMSOIL deal, everything I use is AMSOIL, and you want to spray that with brake clean, switch it around, get all that old stuff out, any debris that got past the filter. I'm going to put that back in the engine. Spray the outside, it won't hurt. Especially the threads, and you thread them back into the engine. Make sure that's good and clean. Drain that down, get your rag. Dry it out. Inspect it, make sure there's nothing that should not be in there, that's in there. That's pretty clean. So I'm gonna grab the pack with the O-rings and find them. brand new O-rings. Put them in the cap. Put the upper O-ring in first. Put that in place. Get your second O-ring. Put that in the second O-ring spot. That installed. Get you some oil. Just take a little, just coating it. So when you're screwing it back in the engine, it's lubricated. Alright, that's done. We're gonna go back to the car, install the oil filter cartridge, install the cap, torque it down, fill it up with some 020 AMSOIL, of course. 25,000 miles to the next oil filter, and oil change. I like that garbage she's using from Kia. It has to be changed every 10,000 miles. But what I'm gonna do tomorrow, if I get a chance, going on camera again, we're gonna do an oil sample, an oil analysis on the Ram that's got 12,000 miles on it. So before I do 25,000 miles on that, I like to pull a sample at 12, the halfway mark, 10, 12. Send that to the lab and let the lab tell me what's going on with the engine. Either they'll recommend I change the filter, or change nothing, or change the oil in the filter. But that is how I change oil. Not because the dumb thing in the dashboard says change it. Change it because the laboratory says change it. Stay tuned, going back underneath the car. Alright, inside you will see at the 3 o'clock position, just imagine a clock with the small hand on the 3. The filter has to go in with the tab that way, and I'll have to rotate it down towards the 6 o'clock position, and you'll see where it will interlock. I don't know, I should have took the tie off, but I didn't. And if you can't see it, when you get to do yours, you'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, stand by. This is what the filter looks like installed. Changing the oil. I don't know what she's doing. Once you, guys and gals, if you try to tackle this on your own, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. That piece that protruded, insert that in the small, the nipple, if you will. Insert that in the 3 o'clock position and rotate it down towards the 6 o'clock position. You'll actually feel it go in, and you give it a push, and it actually almost goes flush. Once you do that, you are ready to install the cap, and I believe that torque spec is 16 to 19 foot-pounds of pressure. It's a plastic cap, so don't go crazy on it. Once we do that, I'll push it off the ramps, put the Signature Series 25,000 miles oil in there, check the cap, top it off, and this is a done deal. Stand by. Right, we are in the home stretch of the honey-do list. Before you can get to your stuff, of course, if there's a honey-do list, you have to get to their stuff first. So I'm going to complete this simple oil change for those who choose to tackle this. Pointed out the issues that you need to keep your eye out on and for. So it goes for 6.4 quarts of oil, but because I'm an AMSOIL dealer and I'm tired of her always telling me she needs an oil change at 7,000, 10,000 miles, whatever Kia calls for, we'll put some AMSOIL in there, stretch that out to 25,000 miles. And I will put this on an oil analysis program as well. And we pull oil samples out at 12, 10,000 miles, and let the laboratory tell us if it is time to change the oil. I'll find my funnel. I don't think there's anything interesting you need to see about me putting 6.4 quarts of oil in here, but I will come back on once I get it started up and just double check to see if nothing's leaking, back it out, and then the real fun begins. One last thing about engine oil. When I dump this last quart of Signature Series 020 is what this vehicle calls for. We now make a line of synthetic blend. A lot of people don't want to use synthetic oil for whatever reason. We have a line of synthetic blend oil. You can use that as well. And if you don't feel like splurging for the 25,000 mile oil change intervals, you can come down a grade or two, and we have the same oil change intervals as recommended by the manufacturer. The price point is an issue. We have levels of oil to suit all pockets and preferences. But again, this is the Signature Series, which is 25,000 miles. It protects up to 25,000 miles or a year, whichever comes first. So what I like to do with even the vehicles that sit, I still pull an oil sample and send that into the lab. If it's a vehicle that sits, that's a time period, 3 months, 4 months, I'll pull a sample. And if it's a miles that I'm worried about, I'll pull an oil sample halfway through the 25,000 miles, send that into the lab, and let them give me a full detailed analysis of the oil and goings on inside of the engine, and make my determination from there. They will recommend if you should change the oil or just change the filter or just keep driving. It's the only way to go. If you own a fleet, that's definitely cost effective instead of just changing oil because a little thing on the dashboard says change it, or if you're doing it by miles. Just spend the money, spend it once, do it right. Signature Series 020 for the 24 Kia Carnival. And this wraps up this oil change, and go do some stuff I want to do. Till next time.